Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Board of Education meeting. It's 7 o'clock, and if you can, please stand to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, we are delighted tonight to have another recognition of one of our Lake George um, valued staff members, and to present that award is Rosemary Earl.
I give such great pleasure. It gives me such great pleasure to present this to Bonnie Hart. But I'll read it. I'll read the nomination for you. Bonnie could not be more deserving of being recognized as an employee of the month. She is a dedicated problem solver and goes above and beyond to help when needed. No one can be sure that she ever sleeps with the amount of supplemental work that she volunteers at home. Bonnie played a significant role in helping with student course over the summer. She also steps in to fill in the last minute math teacher position to ensure the opening of school year was flawless, even given the uncertainty surrounding COVID-19. Students are very successful in math with Bonnie's guidance, as she always makes herself available to those who need her. There is always a spring in her step and a smile on her face. Bonnie is very humble, but you can tell that she strives for excellence and absolutely loves what she does. Her service to school district is endless, and we as a board appreciate you as employee. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Bonnie. Very well deserved. All right, and we're moving right into our presentation of PE and Health by Kyle Manny. Welcome, Kyle.
There we go. All right. Well, thank you here tonight to speak briefly about the current state of health and physical education K to 12 here at Lake George. Our first slide talks about our current standards in health and physical education. There are 3 standards, but we're not going to spend too much time in them as the standards are under an update cycle. So the physical education standards are, and go to the next slide here, this year, actually phase 1 of the new standard rollout. So very similar to the next gen standards with New York State as they update the standards, they're doing a rollout, phased in approach with the standards. So we're in phase 1. This current school year is to raise awareness that there are new standards, that they have been updated. Year 2, which would be next year, is to build the capacity within the districts. Year 3 would be full implementation of these new and revised standards. The one thing to note on this update is they only updated the physical education standards. So we're also talking about health. The health standards that are currently in place remain as they are. And our understanding is that they will be in the next revision cycle along with family and consumer sciences as part of an update. So we expect those to be updated in the next couple of years as well. The main update to the standards, as you saw, we had 3. They've expanded it to 6 anchor standards. And the big focus is that they've added social, emotional elements and personal well-being. They're looking at addressing the whole child. with ESSA. And really the social emotional and mental health focus, we see a lot of similarities to what has already been taking place in the additions of the mental health curriculum in our health curriculum, but it really focuses on 4 areas. So decreasing the mental health stigma, understanding mental health disorders, enhancing the help-seeking efficacy, and finally understanding how to obtain and maintain good mental health. And obviously there's a very large connection to physical activity and that mental health. Some of the major changes for our department is that we've been infusing more fitness and lifetime activities into our curriculum K through 12. We've been working with the FitnessGram fitness testing over the last couple of years to expand that. Again, K to 12, really first to 12. At K level, they do some just to get them used to what it looks like. They actually don't collect as much data at the kindergarten level. Incorporating the character ed leader and me into the daily lessons K to 6. Here up at the middle and high school, we've been using a web-based fitness training platform. It's actually called Platform, the letters PLT, 4 and M. It's a web and app-based fitness training, and it has a lot of great components. We used it quite a bit when we went emergency remote, and we've been finding it to be a great resource. We've been using the Google Classroom to help kind of have that hybrid flipped classroom model. And obviously there's been challenges, but opportunities with the COVID situation. So in phys ed, we have to maintain a distance of 12 feet if we would like to take the masks off. There's limited sharing of equipment. There's a lot of sanitation. So it's really caused us to be creative with our curriculum and our planning. But we've really noticed that it's provided some opportunities. We've selected some of those activities such as tennis, archery. We redid our soccer unit. We played what was called human foosball or grid soccer. So we've really kind of gotten creative with our activities, and we've noticed that, you know, our students have really engaged in it, but it's also some students who've said, you know, geez, I really liked archery, but I would have never signed up for that unit. Or, hey, tennis is really fun. I wouldn't have, picked that if it was a choice. So we've really found that some of the units we've been able to do. We've been doing on rainy days yoga and meditation. In our gym, we have grids set 12 feet apart. So really kind of incorporating that mental health piece and getting it to all of our students. So although it's provided some challenges, some great opportunities for us as well. Some of the minor changes, we introduced a new disc golf unit in our curriculum 7 through 12. And if you saw a recent article in the Post-Star, they're building a disc golf course right here in Crandall Park. There's one locally down at the Saratoga State Park, so it's an emerging sport, and we're excited to kind of be at that cutting edge curve, introducing it to our students here as well. We have an advanced PE curriculum and elective, and we continue to evolve that interest. Our tennis and pickleball courts are now completed right behind us here. They're gorgeous, and it's really allowed us to expand those offerings and those units. And in health, we've been continuing with the American Heart Association, the certifications with hands-only CPR for both our 8th and 10th grade student population. So when a student graduates here from Lake George, they are certified in our association CPR, which is a great resource that we have here. Some data analysis that we do. Phys ed is teacher observation. We're observing those skills as the students are performing them and how they're improving. We're also observing that social emotional social responsibility. We have unit quizzes at our 7th through 12th grade levels. Our FitnessGram software that I talked about, our fitness testing. We do some peer self pre and post assessments in the middle and high school using our skill and review sheets. We look at our athletic participation numbers as just a data point for us as well. And biannually, we have a Center for Prevention survey that we conduct in our health classes. Finally, some goals and checkpoints for the future. Obviously, we want to continue to utilize our natural surroundings, something that we've had as a goal, but obviously with COVID, it's cause us to look at that in a new and renewed way. Staying current with the technology field, teaching nutrition and fitness units, trying to combine those with the health and PE educators, trying to really make the connection and do those units simultaneously. We wanted to note that when we presented last to the board in 2018, two of our goals, one was to have handicap access to our fitness center that has been completed with the beautiful bridge project, and we wanted to increase our athletic trainer availability, which we are at full-time capacity with that trainer. So two of those goals that we last presented on have been accomplished, and we wanted to say thank you to the board for supporting those. And finally, as I alluded to, it hasn't been business as usual. We've been trying to stay outside as long as possible. We stayed out right up to the Thanksgiving break. It was some cold days and evenings. And obviously, as I said, we got creative when it was raining out. Looking at the future of, expanding that disc golf unit and those resources and materials. Pickleball and tennis, as I said, as those courts have come to play, we're look to be expanding those. I did want to give a shout out. Kelly Collins has been spearheading some faculty wellness, pickleball actually on outdoor courts, some yoga inside, some spinning classes that our faculty loves. And phys ed department helps run those, and a great resource for our faculty. And then the last piece is, our future goals are all, I think that's the caveat of the year, subject to COVID, but as things progress, we'll continue to adapt and adjust, and we're excited to kind of undertake those new standards and roll them out. Fantastic.
Yeah. I'm curious, I know pickleball is especially popular with the retired population. And have we done any outreach to let them know that they're up and available for community members? For that population, but any others too?
I'm not sure if we have done any outreach. I know
Mhm.
that Fran and I have received a couple of inquiries from the community of, are there, when we were building the courts, were there going to be pickleball, lines? We said yes, that was the plan. They were very excited. I know there's been some folks up there. So I don't know that we've done any recent outreach, but a couple years ago, Kelly and I had in the president of the local pickleball association that has developed out of Jenkinsville, and they were very excited to know that we were teaching the game in our curriculum. We were doing it indoors at the time, but now we're able to do outdoors as well. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback from our students and from the faculty who've played it. And it's a fast-paced game. It's, definitely, I don't want to say easier than tennis, but many folks find it different than tennis, and
I think it's a great example if we have community using us, modeling that lifetime fitness.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, we have those conversations, beginning with the end in mind, and we talk about, what do we do now to stay fit, and it was, well, 10 years ago, I played men's league hockey, but as kids came along and it's like, now I don't do as much of that. And so we kind of talked about that of how do we give them that expansive, albeit maybe thinner experience across the wide variety so that, yeah, they're going to maybe play basketball intramurals in college, and maybe they'll play in the men's league for a couple of years, but then when that stops, they know that they can access a class at the Y, or they can go hiking, or hey, pickleball is a great option, and that they have a variety to choose from. Yep. in New York, you can't sign more than a single year contract in schools. I think that's what it is. So it's a 1 year contract. They have different levels. So our level is we're under so many licenses. I think we have up to 500 users. Is the level of the license that we buy. So we can have up to that, and we haven't, with our enrollment population on there, we haven't gone above that. So we use that both for phys ed and athletics as well. So the coaches and teams that want to use it, every kid 7 to 12 has an account. So there's different kind of workouts and plans in there. They've been adding a lot of stuff. They actually just launched this whole yoga series. They developed a whole fitness curriculum called Fitness from Your Living Room, which is no weights, no equipment. Obviously designed for the remote. So they've got a lot of great resources that we've been using it in a lot of ways. They launched some podcasts and some other like assignments, some nutrition stuff that Steve and I have been looking at, supplement. It's been a great resource.
I just have one comment that I think it's incredible that we have all of our students graduate with CPR certification. That has saved lives in our district. A couple saved grandparents. But the other thing is I like about your program is that you give student choices, and I don't think that's offered in a lot of districts. And I think that empowers the student to try things that they wouldn't normally, like you said. And I think that's just really an impressive thing. And thank you to Kelly and you for teaching all those faculty workouts.
Any other questions? Kyle, thank you so much. This is fantastic.
Thank you. And I don't think I'm presenting next month, so you get a break from me.
Miss you. That's right. All right, next up we have our elementary update. That's great. That's so sweet. Hey, Jim Conway, you're up.
Our building level goals before. I just wanted to go back to them to share with you some of the things that are going on so you can three things that we really wanted to focus on this year at the elementary school. First one was to take care of the safety and social emotional needs of our students and staff. Second one, to manage the delivery of our academic program both in person and virtually. And the third one, continue to grow our school communication. So I want to give you a few examples of the work that we're doing. The first one, social emotional needs of our students. One of the things that I'm blessed with the fact that we have a mental health team of folks in the building, social workers, school psychologists, and now a part-time counselor who I meet each week. And we really develop our program with that social emotional. We want to make sure that that's something that we're sharing with our families. So last year, in conjunction with PSO and Moman, sponsored a night that really addressed Tier 1 Leader in Me program students. And we hosted a night, and it was wonderful. We had about 175 parents that came in, and really it was learning the program by doing it and seeing how the program addressed the needs of our students. This year, again, that group does a needs analysis, and knowing that there are students and staff who are anxious during these, knowing that we had an opportunity to provide something for our parents. What are those things that you can do to help your try to help them be less anxious, and also an opportunity for staff to grow from some experts out there. So Ann had conversation with PTSO and set up with Summer Steves, who's been amazing. Presentation that I'll share. You'll be aware Child Mind Institute, City, on dealing with different mental challenges that people face. So a presenter tomorrow is going to be speaking, and we had the information pushing this, certainly with our families and individual students, families, am I off? That have been struggling. So again, tie that back to goals. What is it setting out to do? Student, its way, it's really reaching, make sure that they're aware. Children with anxiety, and it's a real thing. It really is. So it's a large majority of our students are on the outside to be doing just fine, but we know there are students that are struggling with different share that. Second goal, and managing the delivery of person. And as you know, tomorrow is a remote day for us. One of the staff will be doing is really focusing on. It's been challenging for us to meet and do the regular things that we do and have done in past years as far as being at a building to talk about. It's challenging to do some of those things virtually. So tomorrow, we're really focusing on some discussions, some vertical discussions regarding our ELA program. And our staff is broken into some small teams, K through 2 and 3 through 6, to address some of those topics within our English language arts program that we need to put some attention on or some focus on, where we've been focused on other things, and rightly so, at the start of the year. But again, that's a big piece of what we're doing. We don't want that to be lost in some of the challenges that we're faced with. So an additional piece tomorrow, going back to that SEL piece that's been a focus, Jamie Bearer, our CSE chair, is going to be presenting to our staff, all of our teaching assistants, and then a second round actually for our teachers on executive functioning. If you think about some of our children really struggle to be organized, to process directions that are given to them, and Jamie did a great job presenting, I believe it was a year and a half ago now. Time kind of flies, to our staff, and it's a follow-up to some of the work that she did. So again, kind of focusing back on those goals. Then something really just a fun thing to talk about, because that's one of the other big things we've talked about at Cabinet a lot, and I love listening to our presentations tonight at the curriculum meetings. The arts are so important to our kids, and I shared at one of these meetings that probably the weight of the world was lifted for our kids regarding the normalcy of school when our co-curriculars open. Like, all right, this is cool. School is fun. The things that I'm really passionate about, not that they're not all passionate about math and reading, but I'm able to go and stay after school for all of those things that I truly love. Really exciting. One of the things that we truly love at our school every year is our sing-along. And we can't do it in the gym this year. As much as I'd like to invite you all and give you the mic so that you could sing and lead us, that's just not the reality. So for those of you that just saw the curriculum presentation, you know that Mr. Schenk is a dynamic individual, and he gave kudos to Mallory Meyer, our new band teacher. Together, we're planning something where we're able to physically distance. We're going to have speakers that you'll probably hear at the high school, Fran, the speaker that is heading in this direction, and they'll probably hear down by the outlets the speaker that is heading in the other direction. But our classes are going to be able to go outside with their class around the building, not gathering, with their class and spaced out, and join in a sing-along. Depending on the weather, it might be a 10-minute sing-along, could be a 20-minute sing-along. But we don't want to lose that tradition, and I can assure you that our kids will have fun. It will be meaningful for them, and it will be memorable for them. And you know, Ken joked about it that it's not quality singing, but where, but those of you that have attended that before, you know that we'll have some fun and celebrate before the holiday season. So happy holiday season to everybody. Merry Christmas. And thanks. If you have any questions.
I just have to give a kudos to you guys because from where I sit on my end of my job, you make it, when I have a Lake George student, it makes my job a lot easier because you have a very comprehensive program. And usually before the question is asked, their needs are being met on all levels, behavioral, social, emotional. So you guys have a wonderful program. You do a great job. And I just wanted to say kudos to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Proud of the staff. They work hard.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Jim.
So the sing-along is the Wednesday, the 23rd. I don't know the exact time right now. We usually try to do it right before we send the kids home on the buses, but so it would be late in the day. God bless our drivers.
Yeah. That's fantastic. All right. Fran Kokoza's up with the junior senior high update.
Hi, good evening, and welcome to mile 61 of a 180-mile road race. Today is day 61 of the school year, week number 14, but who's counting? Similarly focused as the elementary school on the goals of safety, curriculum, and reopening. We've spoken a few times at board meetings about what our forum is focused on and our heads of departments, and it is focused on those goals. Our forum right now has currently finalized the full closure schedule should the need ever arise for the school to move towards a full closure. Along with that full closure schedule are our student and teacher expectations. So I'm confident to say that should we ever need those, we are ready to fully implement a full closure schedule. Our forum began this evening looking at the hiring documents that the superintendent has asked us to run through our shared decision-making bodies. That will be a multi-week, perhaps multi-month review because of constituents and our meeting schedules. Yep, no worries. Additionally, we received today at forum, not only just at forum, but also in other venues, but today the students who are representatives on our shared decision-making body spoke very eloquently about what it means to them about remaining open and presented several points that it was very good for the adults in the room to hear. You know, for those folks who were in the other room previously this evening and also tonight, you heard from 3 different departments about how they truly have had to relook at their curriculum. And, you know, we joke that today's day 61. However, everyone in this building has had to totally look at every facet of what they do on a daily basis. And tomorrow's remote day, along with what Jim spoke about, gives our teachers a little breather to take a step back and not only get their head above water, but also look at next week, the following week, and the following month. As we learned earlier this week, everything can change in a moment. And, excuse me, you know, based on the most recent COVID situation, specifically at the junior senior high school, we were reinforced by our Warren County Board of Health that all of our practices that we've instituted since September 3rd have truly made a difference in keeping us all safe. And the main point to our staff and to our students that our efforts are paying off and are making a difference. And the fact that we have made it to day 61 is no small feat, isn't it? It's a tremendous accomplishment for our district, for our parents, for our students, for our bus drivers, for our custodians, for our administrative staff, for our teaching staff, to our support staff, to everyone in this organization. What was reinforced with our COVID situation this week is that our practices, albeit difficult, have allowed us to remain open. And we have maximized our instructional time. We've done an incredible job as a district in supporting our students, the whole picture of our students. And next week, we begin extracurricular sports. So we as a district have positioned ourselves in a very good place. Never to be overly confident, never to be complacent, and always to remind ourselves what's important, that we've kept our students at the forefront. So that's all that I had to prepare. I don't know if there were any specific questions to the junior, senior high school in light of this week that perhaps board members might have that I can address specifically. But I cannot overemphasize how proud we are as a school and a district, what our staff has accomplished and our students have accomplished in these past 61 days.
Thank you, Fran. I'm curious what the parental response, were you flooded with calls? Did you have a lot of concerns from the community when the announcement went out?
So the families and parents that we had to speak to directly because of situations that warranted a quarantine were so appreciative of the phone call. And to be honest, picking up the phone and calling a family and informing them that their son or daughter is going to be in mandatory quarantine for the next X number of days is not an easy phone call to make. However, their immediate response was just heartwarming and more or less focused on, thank you for what you folks have done since September. So that was the initial response. Additionally, anyone else that reached out just had some technical questions about how certain folks fell into a quarantine versus certain folks who did not fall into a quarantine. More or less based on information that either was anecdotally shared between students or between staff members or between families, the phone game. But overall, from my vantage point, very positive response. I don't, yeah, oh,
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent.
and I could probably put on one hand the number of reach outs, right? Yeah.
Excellent.
Other questions?
Well, I'd just like to make a comment that, and an observation, well, really a thank you to the entire administration and everyone who was involved in making the decisions and supporting, I don't know, just the best course of action possible from the top down with administration, the expectations that we've set, or you have set, all of you in this district. It's so appreciated. Really, you've held a really held to a very difficult path, and it seems like everyone's doing it with grace, and it's just amazing. So thank all of you really for doing what you've done. It's amazing.
Yeah, and just anyone that's listening as well, to put things in perspective of the students that I see in my practice, it's always a question of, okay, what's your school doing this week? Because the schools in this area, Queensbury, Hudson Falls, Hadley, off on virtual, it's so complicated. The hybrid model, 2 days on. Lake George, consistent, and it just does so well. It helps our students. It's wonderful what you guys are doing. We got to put that in perspective, considering what's going on around us. So,
Thank you.
Thanks, Fran.
Thank you.
All right. Lynn Rotnick is up with the superintendent report.
individuals, we did not have to shut down. And originally, that's what we thought. So it was just it's a great learning experience. The first one tipping, kind of tipped our toe in. And this one really got us a little bit more information. So just bravo, hats off to everybody. I feel very confident in our actions. Also, I just wanted to give folks a yellow zone update. I received an email from a parent that was rather concerned because this person is a working parent, and she really wanted to know what we were doing if we end up in a yellow zone. And I did reach out and just said, here's my number, give me a call. But just to tell everyone that for the last 2 weeks, we didn't want to rush this because we didn't know if we came right out and said we're going to be testing, if people were going to consent. So we did give some time purposefully for people to hear this information. Other school districts got right out in front of it, and we delayed a little because we wanted to know, they're changing things by the day, but we do have a yellow zone plan. We have an internal plan that we vetted through the principals and the nurses and Mike, Megan, myself. We're going to be doing a little video. We have the consent form, and that's coming out this week. But we wanted to make sure before we made those promises that we could even get the testing materials. And at first, they said we couldn't, and now they have received that. So Lake George is positioned in a really great place, and that communication will be coming out at the end of the week, and we will work all next week to get the electronic consent forms, and Megan is working with us on the random 20%. So you'll be getting that information, as will the rest of the community and the faculty and staff. And I have a meeting with LGEA in 2 days, and we'll just go over that with them and send it to faculty and staff before we send it out. But we're just doing, I think we're doing things exactly the way we need to in a very purposeful way. Do you have any questions about that?
20% testing. How is that testing being provided? I wasn't too clear on that.
So we have decided we're going to do that in-house. There was a couple options that the CSOs had through BOCES. Either we could contract that out, we could be overseen by Hudson Headwaters, we could share a nurse with other districts, but the conversation really came back to who are the trusted and trained individuals in our district. And so Dan Durkee from the Department of Health has a training session that's going to happen with the identified folks, including our nurses, on the 17th. And we will be also working around what the data looks like and how to move that data into a system and work with the Department of Health. So the video that, not only the written communication, but the video will have some special guests from Lake George doing those mock tests. And you will also see Carrie and Faith in the full PPE, because when they do them, they have to have all their garb on. And so we're going to be asking parents if they can. It's going to be a really short, but show this to your students, because if you sign the consent form, you don't want to walk in and see Nurse Becker or Nurse Helms in this kind of, it's a lot. The PPE is a lot. And it really is 20% of the faculty, staff, and students at each building. So it's not a total of 20%. We also will be notifying that the families that if you're not comfortable right now with the consent, that's okay. That's okay. We're not, that we will make sure we have a system if they get chosen that we will not bring them in without that consent form. So I do believe, from what I've heard, we'll get a lot of people signing up for that. You're welcome. Any other yellow zone questions? And just an update, and Mike, really, I can throw this to you, but we've had a custodial shortage update just from some situations that have been going on. And we have 2 candidates that we are hoping to bring on. So do you want to just give us a little update on that timing?
Excellent. Thank you. And an extra shout out to Sarah and to Rick for filling those gaps, and everybody else who did put a little extra effort in for that shortage. We really appreciate that. So thanks.
And I think that's it for my notes. Also, just a bravo to our transportation staff, who recently pulled together for one of their own, and are just doing a great job showing up every day with a little bit of a heavy heart and They're doing a great job, as are our B&G and our food service staff, and our LGA and LGSA, and I mean, everyone's pulling together. And I feel like right now, if you walk through, the feeling now is much more of a comfort. And I said recently, I was at Lake George Elementary School, and, the kids talk to you and the staff talk to you. And when I was walking out, my real reflection, and I mentioned this to someone, is not one student has said to me at the elementary level, because they're so resilient, I can't wait to get back to normal. The older students say it, but the younger kids don't say it, but the adults say it. A lot of loss, but the kids are so resilient. So I think that's just an important mindset to think about, that our younger students are kind of going with the flow with it. So that's it for me.
Then I have a question. I'm wondering if it was even considered, you put out the information about snow days. If we had a snow day, we would have a snow day, and that's as normal. Now that we have these virtual plans in place, if we had to shift, if we exceed our snow days, would we move to virtual if we had further inclement weather, so that we don't add on extra days to the school year? Has that been even looked at or discussed?
We did have that discussion with the Lake George Association, and we decided that right now we want to send the message loud and clear that we want our children to be children. And if that were to happen, that we would address that at that time. But right
Okay.
now, considering it is the 8th of December, I believe,
Yeah.
we haven't had a snow day, knock on wood,
Yeah.
we're doing pretty good.
Good.
But of course, that could be an option for us down the road.
Right. Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments? Thank you very much. A lot of hard work going on. And Lynn King is up with audit and finance.
Okay, I'll keep this short in view of time. The audit committee met and reviewed the treasurer's reports. All accounts were reconciled positively. I think the thing we spent the most time on was Mike came to us with an investment policy kind of shift. It's called an insurance cash sweep. All it means is that Glens Falls National is our primary bank, and we'll be able to let them deposit money in several different other banks. So that prevents us from going over the FDIC insurance limit. So you'll see on your agenda further on, when Marianne gives her report, that the committee, the Audit and Finance Committee, is recommending that we waive the first and second read, because it's really more of just a shift than a change in the policy. So we can approve that hopefully this evening, and the business office can function as usual. There have been a review of the legal fees for the past 12 years, comparing us to districts in our BOCES and also districts that were mentioned in the CASDA study. That will be helpful information. As you can see, we are going out for a banking and insurance and legal RFPs in the spring of 2021. So all of that will be helpful information. Taxes are line, and all the COVID things that are going on. The storage shed is at state ed for approval, and also we'll be looking to gain approval for 2 40-foot storage containers. And that is my report.
And Lynn, those reports, or maybe Mike has them, that the committee reviewed, can they be available attached to these as well, to these minutes? The data that was presented, or the presentation? For reference for the banking, insurance, and legal, any documents that were created. Yeah, because you put a lot of work into that. It'd be nice to see that. Thanks.
Those are probably all online anyway, mostly, aren't they, Mike?
Excellent. Thanks. Thanks, Lynn. And Lynn is up again for the Board Development Committee. Did we have any questions? I didn't look up. Okay, Board Development.
Okay, so Board Development Committee met, and firstly, I would like to say that on December 1st, we had a wonderful workshop. Our own Mr. Varney conducted an informational session that was outstanding, even color-coded for us poor board members. But it was incredibly informative, and, because we have a young board outside of myself, It was such a good opportunity to really understand everything that's involved in the business office. And the three women that work in Mike's office have been there a long time working together. They do a tremendous job. And Mike, for a brand new business official, you have really got it going on. And we're lucky to have you. Well, you do, but you're providing tremendous leadership and doing a great job for our district. And I appreciate during this challenging time for any business official that you took the time to present to our board to keep us well informed and in the know. So thank you. And please thank the women in your office, because I know you didn't throw that whole thing together by yourself. So thank you. And as you all know, we have an upcoming retreat on January 20th, and the Board Development Committee got together an intended meeting or unscheduled meeting previously because there was a suggestion that we use Dr. Harry Brooks as a facilitator for that retreat. And he was kind enough to take some time to do a virtual meet with Marianne and Tricia and Lynn and I. And we must have spent probably a good part of an hour virtually speaking with him. And Tricia and Marianne and I were in agreement that he would probably be a good fit for our retreat in January. So in regard to that, the committee came up with 3 questions. I think you've all received that in the email. And it's an opportunity for you to reach out individually to Dr. Brooks and set up a time to have an individual conversation with him. He also has the questions, and that'll give him kind of a leg up before we get to January 20th when we have a retreat. I think that's going to be excellent. We only have 4 people so far on our team that'll be there at the retreat, have already contacted him. So I would just encourage you to, as soon as you can, make your appointment to speak with Dr. Brooks. That'll give him opportunity and plenty of time to review and get a plan together for how he wants to approach things in January. So try not to forget that if you can, maybe by the end of the week, if that could be a goal for those of you who haven't reached out to him yet. He's very familiar with Lake George, and he's looking forward to working with us. And he informed me that I think he's doing this pro bono. So that's pretty nice. So it's good for our district.
Lynn, didn't we set a deadline? as far
Oh,
as
I'm
when the
sorry. Yes, I
next-
should have said that. And
You're the
if you
14th,
can't do it
then?
by the end of the week,
Okay.
December 18th
Okay,
was
Oh, 18th.
was the deadline. But if you can do it before that, just out of respect for Dr. Brooks and his time, the sooner the better. So even though we did set a December 18th deadline, I would encourage you to try to get in touch with him the sooner the better. So thank you. Now that retreat, if you've forgotten, is going to be at the Ballard Road Conference Center in Saratoga at the BOCES Ballard Road Conference Center. And 6 to 9, I think, is what we decided for the time to accommodate our 2 full-time working people over there. So.
thank you.
And we appreciate that you'll be able to join us. So, and that's pretty much my report. Does anybody have any questions on any of that?
No.
All
Thank
righty.
you very much, Lynn.
Thank you.
Melissa's up with Buildings and Grounds.
Okay, so you have what are basically our minutes in front of you, but I'll just go through them quick. For the capital project update, the high school front entrance and for the elementary school clusters, the work is progressing. The doors we're hoping to be completed by spring break, but if not, next summer, if they're not able to do so. And the water testing is almost finished. We're waiting for home and careers, those rooms in the high school. And so far, the results have been below state threshold, so we don't have to do anything. Our annual fire inspection is scheduled for November 24th. As Lynn alluded to, storage shed, we're moving forward with that. We have to issue a purchase order. It'll be a metal storage shed right next to the bus garage. And once we do that, then we're going to work with Tetra Tech for the SED of submission for approval. And then building condition survey, that's due to be completed this year. And we need to have the results uploaded by March 1st of 21. Other than that, another thing that we're going to be looking at as part of the process with Tetra Tech, we're going to look to complete our facilities 5-year plan by June of 21. And that was basically the gist of it. Any questions?
There's 2 40-foot storage buildings, correct?
Yeah, well, no, well, there's the, go ahead, Mike.
Okay,
Yeah, that's,
down there. Gotcha. Okay. I meant container, sorry. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Now you
Next
have
up,
to introduce yourself.
I'll introduce myself. I'm Tricia Biles, and I have the Culture and Climate Committee to report out on. And, you know, interestingly enough, I got my latest copy of On Board magazine from the New York State School Boards Association, and the focus on it is it's a special edition on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is on the front page. And there's an article in here by the Vice Chancellor, Board of Regents, T. Andrew Brown, and I just want to read an excerpt of this. He writes, "My colleagues in Albany and I applaud the many local school initiatives, including school board policy work, that seek to prioritize diversity and inclusion in ways that will draw us together and lift us up. This work will require us to have difficult conversations around the issues of race and diversity, and to confront systemic and institutional racism and discrimination wherever we see it." Reading that and recognizing that we've just developed a Culture and Climate Committee where the purpose is to create a school community where everyone is important, welcome, safe, and valued. And that's the core of what we do, and that we have a focus on that is very timely with what is going on in our nation, what is going on educationally in New York, and I feel very proud of that. So that we have a foundation that's set for us to have these conversations is super important. I came to the board meeting today wearing my Nordic jersey, which has the warrior head logo, which has a good deal of controversy around it. And I found myself thinking, you know, when we had some of these conversations in Culture and Climate Committee, this could be a difficult conversation. This piece where we talk in Culture and Climate, we bring it to the board, people are listening in. We could step in it and create some lots of controversy and comments and divisiveness, which is opposite of what we want. We want unity. We want a school where everyone is feeling united in their spirit, and that's important to us. One of the things that we talked about in the Culture and Climate Committee is this bit of a conundrum, right? We've had, for those folks who have done the research or have seen the guidance, I think it was 10 years ago that the Commissioner of Education recommended phasing out Native American logos and mascotry. And some of that has happened. We have not officially used the Indian Head logo on school athletics uniforms, and not putting a lot of money into branding in that direction. But it's been, you know, just a gradual piece. We recognize that this particular logo carries a lot of pride and history in our community. And that's a good thing, that we have pride in our school and we have a symbol that people are connected to. We also recognize that it doesn't promote the unity that we might be thinking would be universal because of what we know about stereotypes and guidance from professional organizations. So that's where we are. We're in the middle of a conversation with that. We know that formally in school, we're not perpetuating this image, but informally, as you can see on the jersey I wear, this was something that was created by the students themselves, the athletes and the families went ahead and purchased these jerseys. This was my son's jersey, and he grew out of it, and it's very comfortable and handy for me. And that, you know, it carries a lot of memories for me, for him on the Nordic ski team, and a lot of pride for that level of athletics. So in this Culture and Climate Committee, we had our school leaders reach out, elementary school, junior, senior high school, and at the district level, and really start the conversation with our internal professionals. What do you know about, you know, these topics of the logo itself? What do you think about it? What's your connection to it? And at the very core, we asked, what is our educational responsibility? Because that's what we're here for. We're here to educate. And imagery is a form of education. When you put an image up, you have repetition and you have thoughts. And so anyway, this is where the conversation started. And it's certainly not something that we are in any capacity ready to make a dictatorial decision or an edict about how we use it. But we really talked a lot about what Mr. Brown said here, inclusion and diversity, and how are we teaching that? We have two board policies that deal with citizenship and diversity and these topics, and that's one of the reasons why we had this come to the board, because we just want to report out, well, how are we doing as a district on these particular issues that are at the forefront of the national and the state conversation, but also part of what we've already established policy around. So you can read more in these notes. The conversation has started and it will continue. We went over our committee time and did not have the chance to really conclude anything. One of the questions that came up, which is still in flux, was, well, we have some of this symbols. They're historic to us. What do we do with them? The wooden warrior head from the junior, senior high school was taken down because of renovations. And now we have a question. Well, what do we do with it? Do we put it up? If we put it up, are we perpetuating a stereotype? What we don't want to do is hide. We want to have a conversation. We want to talk about these things, and we want to make sure that we're not shaming anybody, because this is, you know, just part of us that was a symbol of pride, or is a symbol of pride for many people in spirit. So I'm curious, board members have any questions or comments regarding that. I personally see our role as a board to encourage these kinds of conversations. One of the things that came up with the reports from the teachers is that some of them knew more than others about the research that has been done on stereotypes. And I think that's a great start. Understand what we don't know already. But I'm curious if anybody has any other thoughts in reading the minutes or on the topic itself. Well, we didn't get to concrete next steps. And I think that's one of the things that I'd like to just remind the board and everybody else, is that it's not the board's job to come into the school and say, you have to do this and you have to do this. What we're looking for is reports from our leadership team. What are we doing already, or what are the initiatives on the table that are addressing these issues that are in front of us? What are the recommendations that our school has to address emerging cultural changes, right? So I would say that the next Culture and Climate Committee would be a great thing for us to continue that conversation. Folks had a lot to say and a lot to think about. And find out, where can we evolve with intentionality around these topics? There are really two different themes that came up. And Marianne, maybe you can speak to that a little bit, because we had a conversation about the two angles that we were looking at.
Okay, yeah. Well, just the idea that, the mascot symbol it represents pride and is a great source of pride. But if we recognize that in some aspects it's not a source of unity, can we continue to be fully proud, and to really keep having those discussions? I think, Tricia, what you were saying about not directing, whatever the district ends up doing, I think that what you said about not hiding, I think as long as the conversations are happening and that we are always moving forward with intentionality, I think, that's when good things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if that's what you were
Yes.
recalling from our conversation.
And also that, we talked about the Indian head as an example of this, but really the deeper, more meaningful educational piece is, how comfortable are our educators in talking about issues of diversity? So that's one concrete example that is relevant to Lake George. But there's a host of others, and we see them and we hear them, and even in On Board, they highlight a situation where students were wearing the blue line masks, and then there's a conversation about the imagery of the blue line flag, and then the conversation around Black Lives Matter, and all of these topics are very charged, and I can see that it would be challenging for an educator to bring that developmentally appropriately to a classroom. And I just think that this is something that we would love to have our educators feel more comfortable with that. I'm sure some of them do, and some of them, have a harder time. But we've seen controversy come up, bubble up in other schools based around these topics. I think the important thing, though, is to face that and not to walk away, because it's hard. We don't want to walk away from it. We want to once again approach with intentionality and purpose, which our policy does drive us to do. So this committee, the Culture and Climate Committee, I do see us having another conversation around this, but that's not the purpose of the committee, to talk about, what are we going to do with the logo. That's really school work that, will evolve, whether it's in the classroom, it's in professional development, and in how they manage the schools. But we'll be addressing other topics in the purpose of creating a school community where everyone is important, welcome, safe, and valued, which is a tall order, but an important one. And this is only one piece of that. Any other questions? Thanks. All right, next up is a policy report from Marianne McKenzie.
Okay, so you'll see up for first read this evening are 10 policies. One of them is the policy that Lynn King referenced in her audit and finance report, which is 5220, the district investments policy, which we're waiving second read on in order to have that adopted this evening, as it benefits the district to do so. The other 9 policies that are up for first read are all bylaws that were part of our internal review cycle. 5 of them really we had made some very minor punctuation wording improvement suggestions. Bylaw 1511, the regular meeting agenda had a little bit more significant suggested revisions to reflect the organization of our agenda currently, so that it is more in line with what we're doing. And then there were 3 others that had Erie 1 updates that had come to us in the past that had not yet been incorporated. So 1310 is powers and duties of the board, and that just had some additional writing suggested to state that boards have the right to exercise in a to act in accordance with New York State education law. Bylaw 1410 was a policy about policy. It's our policy and administrative regulation bylaw, and that just put in writing that the board needs to take formal action. Formal action is necessary to revise or rescind policies. And then bylaw 1611, we ended up suggesting to remove some elements that we do not practice and we're not required to. So we suggested that revision so that we weren't in violation of our own policy. Additionally, currently the board committee members and Lynn Rutnick, Superintendent Rutnick, are electronically reviewing the last 4 bylaws that pertain most specifically to functions of the board. They are regular board meetings and rules, public participation at board meetings, minutes, and executive sessions. And we will present those to the full policy committee at our next meeting in January. Also at our meeting coming up in January, we will be reviewing Policy 3421, which is Title IX and sex discrimination. We received an update from Erie 1 BOCES on this policy. It's quite lengthy, has several elements that require customization and some policy overlap. So that'll be a sit-down review together. And we may also possibly at that meeting take a look at Policy 6122, complaints and grievances, as there were some discussions around this policy have produced some questions about interpretation. So we'll want to take a examine that for wording clarity and make sure that it says what it's intended for.
Was that a revision suggested by Erie 1?
No, it was some conversation that had occurred, and maybe Tricia, it was a conversation I think Tricia and Lynn had, and just talking about, how do we interpret the policy? And so we were seeking some guidance on that, and we'll just want to take a look and make sure that it's clear. Yeah.
Can you just tell me what policy that is again? So I
Yep.
can look at
6122. And then additionally, there are, I think, 9 bylaws left, and those are focused on duties of certain positions, and those will be what we review next electronically. And that's all I have. Questions?
Thanks, Mary Ann. All right, we have reached our first public comment period, the time where public can comment on the agenda thus far. Sarah, do we have anyone who has checked in? No. Well, there's another chance. So if anybody's listening at home, if you would like to provide a comment for any content or really anything on your mind, just go ahead and send an email to us, and we'll read that off at the end of the meeting. We are moving on to the school business consent agenda.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the school business consent agenda items A through J. Move approval.
Second.
Second from Mary Ann. All in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carried. Next up, we have our faculty staff appointments consent agenda.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the faculty staff consent appointments, items A through E.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carried. And congratulations and welcome to our new appointments, Jessica and Eric. Board comments and areas of discussion. Do we have any comments from board members right now? Anything you'd like to discuss? I would just like to say, with COVID cases on the rise and, the situation changing, I would just like to invite everyone who comes to these board meetings regularly to communicate with me if you're feeling uncomfortable with meeting in person, and we can work out virtual options, whether that be for the entire meeting or for an individual. So just put that out on the table so that people can speak up if you feel the need. And now is that next public comment period, and my guess is that we haven't had any emails in the interim. Is that so, Sarah? Okay, very good. So right now, I'd like to propose an executive session for the purpose of talking about the superintendent's mid-year evaluation. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Lynn, a second from Janine. And now we're going to enter into executive session. We do not anticipate coming back out for any further business. So thanks, everybody.